Giles Dickinson, CEO of WindEurope.
Okay, well, we have 160 gigawatts of installed wind capacity in Europe today, which is great. Nearly all of it is onshore, but we have 14 gigawatts within that is offshore wind. And those 160 gigawatts today are providing 11% of all of the electricity that Europeans consume. Some days, of course, it's much more than that. Last Saturday it was 25%. It was even 106% in Denmark. So wind has become a mainstream part of the European energy system, and that is great. Now, we believe in WindEurope that by 2020 we will have over 200 gigawatts of installed capacity and that wind will be 16% of Europe's electricity. What about 2030, the longer term? Well, if we have the right policies in place, and that's a very big if, governments have got to do their stuff, but if we have the right policies in place, if we have significant further progress on system integration of variable renewables, storage, demand response, the right grid investments, then wind could be more than 300 gigawatts by 2030, and that would make it 30% of Europe's electricity. As I say, if we have the right policies, the right progress on system integration. So all of that is very good. What is driving this progress? Well, cost reduction is the most important thing. The costs of onshore wind have fallen to levels where onshore wind is now by far the cheapest form of new power generation capacity for almost any country in Europe. The last auction in Spain was 33 euros per megawatt hour. The last auction in Turkey was 30 euros per megawatt hour. In Germany it was 43 euros per megawatt hour. But these are prices that are close to, if not lower than, the wholesale electricity prices. So onshore wind is becoming extremely affordable. And offshore wind is not far behind. The prices have fallen spectacularly over the last 3 years. Just 3 years ago, offshore wind cost over 150 euros a megawatt hour. Now we're in the 60s. Such has been the progress on cost reduction there. But of course we've still got many challenges. We've got some important political challenges. There are many countries in Europe today that are not investing anything in wind at all. Around half the 28 EU member states invested nothing last year. And why is that? Well, they see that, or they fear that wind costs too much. And part of the problem here is legacy costs, because these are countries where consumers are paying for the expensive feed-in tariffs that were being offered up to 10 or 15 years ago, when the technology costs much more than it did today. And these are the costs that are featuring on consumer bills today. So politically, it's not straightforward trying to get more wind built in a lot of these countries. People don't understand readily that the costs have fallen because they only see what they're paying today for the technology that was installed 10 or 15 years ago. The other challenge we have is getting people to recognize that it is perfectly affordable and perfectly doable to integrate higher shares of variable renewables in your energy system. Some people think we can't afford to integrate more than 10% of wind and solar, and it's absolutely not true. We already have 3 countries in Europe that have more than 25% of their electricity coming from wind. That is Denmark, Ireland and Portugal. It's already close to 20% in Germany that is coming from wind. The progress in storage, demand response, grid has been such that it's perfectly doable now to integrate higher quantities of wind. But we've got to convince people that this is affordable, that this is doable.
What would you say to the Greek energy minister if you had him in front of you?
I would say, look how cheap it is to invest in new wind power generation capacity. You need new power generation capacity in this country. Wind is your cheapest option, so go for it. The other thing I would say is make sure that whatever your regulatory framework is for supporting wind investments, you reassure investors that it's a very stable framework. Because one of the problems today in Greece is that the investors, the private investors are demanding very high costs of capital for investing in wind. That's because they don't trust the government, they don't trust the regulation. You've got to reassure people that you've got a good framework and it's going to stay in place and provide a backing for investments in wind. And then you can bring your capital costs down from sort of 10, 12% where they are today to 4, 5 or 6% where they are in the rest of Europe.
Okay, I think it's great.
Yeah, okay, good.
Great.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not at all,
Thank you, my friend.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Pleasure, yeah.